My name is Karen. I'm 32 years old, and if there's one thing people say about me, it's that I make life look effortless. On the outside, I'm the woman who orchestrates perfect events, corporate galas, fairy tale weddings, charity dinners that make headlines the next day. Guests see the glamour, the sparkle, the laughter under chandeliers. What they don't see are the 12-hour days, the clipped fingernails from tying 100 bows, or the quiet exhaustion of carrying everyone else's chaos on my shoulders. That's my professional life, and somehow it's also my family life. I was 8 when I first learned that being the helpful one made adults smile. By 12, I was the one who color-coded our school supply lists, smoothing over my siblings' tantrums. By 25, I was the daughter who could fix anything from leaky faucets to broken hearts. And now at 32, I am the invisible scaffolding that holds up my family's carefully staged facade of togetherness. To outsiders, we're that family. Everyone admires. Sunday dinners, birthday gatherings, Christmases that could be postcards. But facades hide cracks. You just have to look close enough. There's my mother, Linda, widowed 5 years ago. When my father died suddenly of a heart attack, everything shifted. Dad was the one who noticed when I was being volunteered without my consent. He would say, "Karen has her own life too, remember?" But when he was gone, so was my shield. My mother relied on me more and more, and my siblings, well, they discovered how convenient it was to have me around. Abigail, my older sister, is a perfectionist to her core. She insists her twin boys, Jackson and James, are angels incarnate, though anyone who's spent more than 15 minutes with them knows the truth. They're terrors clever enough to weaponize her blind spots. Still, Abigail floats above it all, sipping her wine while I'm the one chasing after spilled juice and broken ornaments. Then there's my younger brother, Thomas. He's the easygoing one, always joking, always deflecting. But father to 3 kids who never stop moving Sophie, Emma, and little Lucas. When Thomas gets overwhelmed, he calls me. "You're better at this than I am, Karen. The kids love you, and because I love them too, I say yes, every single time." On paper, I am Aunt Karen, the reliable one. But in reality, I am their safety net. The unpaid babysitter. The problem solver. The woman whose time has somehow become communal property. It's not that I don't love them, I do. That's what makes this so complicated. Love is the leash that keeps me tethered even when it chafes. This year, Christmas was supposed to be different. For once, I wasn't just planning a celebration for everyone else, I was excited for myself. Jason, my boyfriend of 8 months, was coming. He isn't just another name in my dating history. He's the first man in years who makes me feel like more than a convenient accessory. He listens, he notices, and he asks questions that no one in my family ever bothers to ask. When I told him I handled every holiday detail, he frowned and said, "But who handles you, Karen?" I didn't have an answer. Still, I wanted to believe that introducing him at Christmas would shift something. I imagined Jason by my side, helping carve the ham, laughing with Thomas, sharing wine with Abigail, making my mother see me as more than just the single daughter who had time to spare. I pictured him slipping his hand into mine when the kids tore open their gifts, a quiet affirmation that I wasn't alone anymore. So I threw myself into preparations with renewed energy. By mid-November, my dining room looked like Santa's command center, personalized ornaments I had crafted for each child recipe, cards labeled by oven time, even custom coloring books featuring drawings of our family's holiday traditions. I ordered the premium ham from the butcher, who only releases 20 each year, and booked my florist to create fresh garlands. At night, I stayed up sketching out Christmas scavenger hunts for the kids' activities meant for all of us to enjoy together. I even embroidered matching stockings for Jason and me, a small but symbolic gesture. But there was a shadow behind my excitement, an unease I couldn't quite name. Maybe it was the way Abigail brushed off my mention of bringing someone special at Thanksgiving, too busy with her twins' mess to care. Or the way Thomas changed the subject when I tried to talk about Jason. Or the way my mother's smile flickered just for a second when I hinted that I wanted to sit at the adult table this year. It was subtle, almost invisible, but I felt it. That undercurrent of dismissal, the assumption that I would keep being who I've always been. The helper, the extra pair of hands, the one without needs. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself this year would be different. But deep down, a whisper lingered. What if they don't see you? What if they never did? That whisper grew louder the closer Christmas came, and soon it would roar loud enough to change everything. 8 months earlier, on a humid spring evening, I met Jason under the glittering lights of a charity gala I was coordinating. He was the photographer hired to capture candid moments between champagne glasses and speeches that droned on too long. Our worlds collided when I caught him balancing on a chair to get a better angle of the crowd. "You're going to fall," I warned, sliding my clipboard under my arm to steady him by the elbow. "And you're going to ruin your clipboard if I land on you," he countered, flashing me a grin that was half apology, half mischief. It was such a small moment, but it stayed with me. Later, when the event was over and my crew was clearing up, Jason lingered. He asked if I ever got to enjoy the parties I planned. I laughed bitterly. "Not really. Someone has to make sure the champagne doesn't run out and the bride's cousin doesn't start a fistfight." Instead of nodding distractedly the way most people do when I talk about work, he leaned in and said, "Sounds like you're the reason everything looks effortless." His voice was sincere, and for once I felt seen. From that night on, he kept showing up. At first coffee after shoots, then dinners squeezed into my schedule, then long late-night calls where he told me about his childhood summers chasing fireflies in the Midwest, and I confessed how lonely it felt to be everyone's dependable rock, but nobody's priority. Jason didn't flinch when I told him about my family. In fact, he listened, really listened. He was the first person who said out loud what I'd been afraid to admit, that my family didn't just rely on me, they depended on me, to the point of erasing me. "You've built your whole life around making things perfect for everyone else," he said one night, as we sat on his balcony overlooking the city skyline. "But who makes things perfect for you, Karen?" I didn't answer. The truth was painful, no one. That's what made him different. With Jason, I wasn't just the reliable planner, the fixer, the convenient single aunt. I was funny. I was wanted. I was enough. By the time autumn rolled around, I knew I wanted him in my future. And as Christmas approached, I wanted him in my family's future too. At Thanksgiving, I tested the waters. Over pumpkin pie I'd baked at 3 a.m, I mentioned casually I might bring someone special for Christmas this year. Abigail barely glanced up from cutting the twins' turkey into bite-sized pieces. "That's nice, Karen. Pass the gravy?" Thomas gave a half smile but said nothing. He was too busy trying to stop Lucas from knocking over his milk. Mom smiled distractedly, her eyes already on the pile of dishes she knew I'd wash after dinner. "We'll see, dear." That was it. No questions. No curiosity. Just a distracted murmur, as though I'd said I might bring an extra pie instead of introducing the man I'd fallen in love with. Jason noticed my tight smile when I told him about it later. He brushed my hair back from my face, his eyes steady. "You don't have to earn their interest, Karen. If they cared, they'd ask. Don't minimize yourself just because they're comfortable minimizing you." His words lodged deep in me. I wanted to believe my family would surprise me with warmth when they met him. I pictured Jason helping me carve the ham, my mother complimenting him on his photography, Thomas clinking glasses with him, Abigail even cracking one of her rare, approving smiles. So I doubled down on preparations. If the holiday was perfect, if the decorations glowed, and the food dazzled, and the kids squealed with joy, then maybe they would finally notice what Jason already did, that I was more than a background character in their lives. The irony was, the more effort I poured in, the less they seemed to notice. 2 weeks before Christmas, Abigail called frantic. "Karen, our dinner reservation fell through. Could you maybe find something? Oh, and while you're at it, could you watch the twins, just for a couple of hours?" I canceled my own plans with Jason. He took the disappointment in stride, showing up at my apartment with takeout and a smile. "Another time," he said, but I saw the flicker of hurt in his eyes. Another night, Thomas texted me at midnight. "Any chance you can help Sophie with her project, dinosaur diorama, due tomorrow morning?" I was still gluing cardboard volcanoes at 2 a.m., my fingers sticky, my eyes burning. Jason offered to come over, but I told him no. I didn't want him to see me like that, bone-tired, sacrificing myself for a family that never thanked me. But he already knew. "Karen," he said gently, when I finally collapsed on his couch the next night, "do you realize you cancel more plans for them than you ever do for work? You treat them like clients, but they don't pay you. They don't even appreciate you." I bristled defensive. "They're my family, Jason?" "Yes, and you're theirs. Doesn't that mean your time matters just as much as theirs?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The truth hung between us like fog, heavy and unavoidable. But in quieter moments, I caught Jason watching me with concern. Once, as I balanced on a ladder, stringing lights on Mom's roof, he stood below, camera in hand. "You're decorating like the house has to prove something," he said. "Doesn't it?" I replied without thinking. That silence, that ache in my chest when I realized what I'd admitted, followed me down the ladder. I wanted this Christmas to be the one where everything shifted, where I finally broke free from being the helper and became simply Karen. What I didn't know then was that the shift was coming, but not the way I'd imagined. Because just 1 week before Christmas, everything I'd built would come crashing down with a single overheard conversation. The week before Christmas, frost glittered on the rooftops like someone had shaken powdered sugar over the entire neighborhood. I left my apartment early that morning, my car stuffed with bags of garlands, ribbons, and carefully labeled boxes. It was our family's pre-Christmas planning session, a tradition that had somehow become my job to lead each year. The house looked peaceful as I pulled into the driveway. My own handiwork glowed back at me, twinkling lights strung with precision along the eaves, wreaths hanging perfectly centered on each window. I had put them up 2 days earlier, while Mom stood below with a mug of cocoa, supervising like a queen in her court. I balanced the bags on my hip and unlocked the front door with my key. "Hello," I called, my voice carrying through the quiet entryway. No answer. I figured they were in the kitchen. I set the bags gently by the stairs, brushed frost off my coat, and followed the faint sound of voices drifting down the hall. Mom's laugh, soft and familiar, floated out first. Then Abigail's sharper tone and Thomas's deeper one. I was about to round the corner when I heard my name. I froze. "So we're agreed," Abigail said matter-of-factly. "Karen will watch all the kids during the adult dinner. 5 kids is a lot, but she's good at it. She can handle them." My hand gripped the wall for balance. Adult dinner babysitting. I hadn't heard a word about this. Thomas chimed in. "She can eat early with the kids, then keep them entertained after." Last year, Lucas had that meltdown, and I barely tasted the food she worked so hard on. This way, we'll actually enjoy themselves, while I ate at the kids' table, apparently. Mom's voice followed, light and approving. "It makes sense. She already has all those activities planned. Why not keep the little ones busy while we finally relax? We deserve it." The decorations I had designed weren't meant to be babysitting props. They were meant for family fun scavenger hunts and crafts we would all do together. But to them, they were just convenient distractions. "And clean up too, right?" Abigail added. I could almost hear her smirk. "She always does that. We'll open a nice bottle of wine this year, maybe play some adult games for once." Mom laughed. "Well, it's not like Karen has other plans. She's single. No offense, but what else does she have going on?" The words stung like a slap. I had mentioned Jason. I had told them I might bring someone. They had nodded distractedly. Had they not heard, or had they simply dismissed it? "Has she even mentioned that photographer guy lately?" Thomas asked, his voice casual. "Oh, that was never serious," Mom replied quickly. "She's too focused on work. Remember that accountant she dated? Same story. She'll never make time for a relationship." The blood rushed in my ears. Jason was still very much in my life. They didn't even care enough to ask. Abigail's voice cut through again. "Perfect. She can entertain the kids starting at 4. I'll tell the twins to save their toy demonstrations for Aunt Karen. And she'll handle Santa duties too, wrapping the last gifts, putting them under the tree after the kids are asleep." And breakfast the next morning, Mom added cheerfully, "Remember her snowman pancakes? The kids adored those. She'll do them again." Their laughter bubbled up light and easy, as though they hadn't just carved me into a servant for the entire holiday. I couldn't move. My chest tightened. Breath-shallow nails digging into the wallpaper. Every word felt like a needle threading together years of small sacrifices into one suffocating truth. They didn't see me. Not really. To them I was convenient, reliable, the single woman with time to spare. Abigail's laugh echoed last sharp as broken glass. "It's really convenient having an event planner in the family. Free childcare and catering all in one." Something in me cracked. Quietly, carefully, I backed away from the doorway. I retraced my steps down the hall, grabbed my bags from the entryway, and slipped out the front door. My breath fogged in the icy air as I closed the door without a sound. They never even knew I had been there. The drive home blurred past in streaks of gray sky and frosted asphalt. My hands clenched the steering wheel, knuckles white. My favorite holiday playlist hummed on the radio, but the cheerful jingles felt cruel, almost mocking. At home, I pushed the door shut behind me and leaned against it, my chest heaving. My dining room was still set up like Santa's headquarters, the neatly wrapped presents, the hand-sewn stockings, the recipe cards. Hours of effort, thousands of dollars. My love poured into every detail. And for what? Memories swirled. babysitting on Abigail's anniversary so she could enjoy her rooftop dinner, crafting Sophie's diorama until dawn so she could earn an A, handling the insurance paperwork when a tree crushed Mom's garage. Always me, always my time. I had told myself it was love, but sitting there in the silence of my dining room, the truth pressed down, like a weight, I wasn't loved for who I was. I was used for what I could do. Tears burned my eyes, but none fell. Anger held them back. A bitter, clarifying anger that whispered, "This isn't the first time. This is the pattern. And if you don't break it now, it will never stop." That night, as the glow of the Christmas lights flickered across my living room, I realized something with bone-deep certainty. This year, Christmas would not go as they expected. The drive back to my apartment felt like slipping underwater. The world moved around me, cars gliding through traffic storefronts glowing with holiday lights, but everything sounded muted, distant. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned pale the same way I used to hold on during childhood car rides when my father drove too fast through snow. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the numbness had given way to something sharper. Anger, white-hot, an undeniable pulse through me. Inside my dining room looked like Christmas had exploded, rolls of ribbon unfurling across the table. Personalized ornaments lined up like soldiers' recipe cards, stacked neatly in order of oven time. My entire December, every spare evening, every dollar saved, sat before me in bright paper and glittering bows. And yet, in my family's eyes, all of it was nothing more than babysitting props. I sank onto the couch, the silence heavy. For years, I had accepted this role, the helper, the fixer, the one who sacrificed. Family helps family, I told myself. But there's a difference between helping and being taken for granted. 3 options swirled in my mind like snowflakes caught in a gust of wind. Option 1, confront them. March into the kitchen, throw their words back at them, demand respect. But I knew how that would play out. Abigail would cross her arms, claiming I was overreacting. Thomas would fidget uncomfortably, trying to stay neutral. Mom would cry, reminding me how hard the holidays were without Dad. My pain would dissolve into their excuses like it always did. Option 2, comply. Swallow the hurt, show up on Christmas Day, and do exactly what they expected. Keep the peace. Keep the family picture perfect. But could I really sit at the kids' table, eat lukewarm food, while they toasted wine without me and pretend I didn't know? The thought alone made my stomach churn. Option 3, withdraw. Cancel everything. Tell them I was sick or claim a work emergency. Stay home, curl up on the couch with Jason, and let them deal with the fallout. But that would feel like running away. And part of me wanted them to see what they had done, to feel the absence of everything I provided. I poured myself a glass of wine, the kind I usually saved for special occasions, and let the liquid courage warm my throat. The anger softened into hurt, then back into anger again. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, Mom's name flashing across the screen. I let it ring. A text followed. "Where did you go?" "We were waiting for you to start decorating." Decorating, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't overheard the blueprint of my servitude. I ignored it. At 9:30, my phone rang again, this time with a name that made me answer Sophia. My best friend since college, the only one who knew the full scope of my family dynamics. "You disappeared on me," she said the moment I answered. "I thought we were grabbing dinner. What's going on?" My voice cracked before I could stop it. "I overheard them, Soph. Mom, Abigail, Thomas. They were planning Christmas. Not with me around me. I'm the babysitter, the cook, the cleaner. They laughed about me being single, about having nothing better to do." The silence on her end lasted only a beat before she exploded. "Are you kidding me? That's not just inconsiderate, Karen. That's cruel, after everything you do for them." Her outrage was a balm, even as tears finally spilled down my cheeks. "It's always been like this, hasn't it? I just didn't want to see it." "Exactly," Sophia said firmly. "Because you're capable, because you love them. But love isn't supposed to erase you." Her words cracked something open inside me. For the first time I let myself admit it, I was tired of being erased. After we hung up, I called Jason. He picked up on the second ring, his voice tired but warm. "Karen. Everything okay?" "No," I whispered. And then it all came pouring out, the overheard conversation, the laughter, the sting of my mother's words. On the other end, I heard silence, then low and steady. "I'm furious for you. Truly. You've given them everything. and they've mistaken it for nothing. Do you know how wrong that is? I bit my lip, the tears hot again. What do I do? Jason? Do I cancel? Do I confront them? Do I— Stop! His voice cut through my spiral. Here's the truth. They'll never see your worth until you stop giving it to them for free. You can't teach someone to value what they've never had to miss. The words settled in me like an ember burning but alive. After we hung up, I sat in the dark staring at the glowing Christmas tree in the corner. For the first time, I considered something radical. Not confrontation, not compliance, not withdrawal. Something else. A Christmas they would never forget. A Christmas where they got exactly what they asked for without me. The thought sent a thrill through me, sharp and dangerous. As midnight struck, I looked at the pile of wrapped gifts, the hand-embroidered stockings, the binder of color-coded plans. For once, all of it would serve me, not them. And for the first time in years, I smiled. The next morning, I woke with a pounding head and the sour taste of last night's wine still on my tongue. For a brief second, I thought it had all been a bad dream. The laughter, the dismissive words, my name spoken like a convenient footnote in their holiday plans. But the truth weighted like a stone in my stomach. Lying in bed, I replayed Jason's words. They'll never see your worth until you stop giving it to them for free. I grabbed my phone thumb, hovering over Mom's number. I wanted to call, to scream, to demand answers. But then another idea bloomed, small and dangerous. A better idea. Why should I argue with people who had already decided who I was? What if instead of fighting their expectations, I gave them exactly what they wanted on my terms? By noon, the plan was forming. By 3, it was alive. The first step was escape. I opened my laptop and began scouring travel sites, flights, resorts, anything that screamed not here. That's when I remembered a conversation with a client 2 weeks earlier. She had gushed about a Caribbean resort, lamenting how she'd had to cancel last minute due to her husband's work trip. She'd even said, if you ever want to sneak away, Karen, I'll give you my contact. They treat their guests like royalty. I dug through my inbox until I found her email. One call later, I had secured the same suite, oceanfront balcony, 5 nights, Christmas Eve check-in. It was indulgent, outrageously expensive. But the money I'd saved for a kitchen renovation suddenly seemed less urgent. What was a shiny backsplash compared to reclaiming my dignity? When the reservation confirmation hit my inbox, I felt lighter. Step 2, catering. For years, I'd collaborated with Anthony, the owner of Dukas, one of the city's most exclusive catering companies. He owed me more than one favor. When I called, his surprise was audible. Karen, what's wrong? Don't tell me you've got a corporate gala meltdown the week before Christmas. Not this time, I said. This is personal. I need a Christmas dinner delivered to my mother's house. 2 separate menus, one elegant one, kid-friendly. Anthony chuckled. That's unusual. Aren't you the queen of cooking it all yourself? Not this year, I replied firmly. Adult dinner beef. Wellington roasted vegetables, truffle potatoes, wine pairings. For the kids, mac and cheese, chicken tenders, broccoli cookies. Label everything, clearly include heating instructions, even a rookie can follow. Delivery at 4 o'clock sharp on Christmas Day. He whistled low. You're sure about this? Very. And Anthony, make it flawless. I want it to look effortless, even if they're the ones fumbling in the kitchen. When I hung up, my heart thudded with satisfaction. They'd get their adult dinner. They'd get their piece. But for once, they wouldn't get me. Step 3, reclamation. For years, little pieces of me had migrated to Mom's house. The stockings I had embroidered with each family member's name. The antique serving dishes from Dad's mother. My grandmother's hand-painted ornaments. They were mine, but somehow had become family property, absorbed into the collective like everything else I contributed. That afternoon, I drove over with a tote bag and a polite smile. Mom was distracted on the phone with a neighbor about holiday carpooling. While she paced the living room, I slipped quietly into the storage boxes in the den. One by one, I reclaimed what was mine: ornaments, stockings, serving dishes. Items chosen with love, now heavy with a different kind of meaning. Carrying them back to my car felt like stealing from myself, but it also felt like freedom. Back home, I lined the treasures along my mantel. For the first time in years, my apartment looked like Christmas belonged to me. That night, Jason came over, a bag slung over his shoulder. He set it down and kissed me softly. You look lighter. I made a decision, I said, handing him the printed confirmation of our trip. His eyes widened. Karen. The Caribbean over Christmas. I nodded. With you. if you'll come. He laughed, pulling me into his arms. Are you kidding? This is the best Christmas present I've ever been offered. For the first time in weeks, I laughed too, really laughed. But beneath the relief, suspense simmered. My family was oblivious, still assuming I'd be at their beck and call. Abigail had already texted about costumes for the twins' Christmas pageant. Thomas wanted me to pick up last-minute gifts. Mom left a voicemail about rearranging her living room furniture for optimal flow. I responded to each with vague non-answers. I'll see what I can do. My schedule is tight this week. Small seeds of doubt planted gently. As the days ticked down, my secret grew into something electric. At work, I tied bows and directed crews, but inside, I hummed with anticipation. At home, I packed swimsuits instead of scarves, sunscreen instead of gloves. I wasn't running away, I was reclaiming. On Christmas Day, they'd get exactly what they wanted, an adult dinner, a peaceful evening. But they'd also get something else: silence. The absence of the daughter who had always been there. The empty chair that would finally show them what my presence was worth. And me, I would be watching waves crash against the shore, Jason's hand in mine, knowing I had finally chosen myself. The days leading up to Christmas blurred into a strange dual existence. On the outside, I was still reliable Karen, answering calls, nodding at requests, keeping my voice warm and agreeable. On the inside, every vague reply, every sidestepped promise was another brick in the quiet wall I was building between myself and my family. It began with Abigail. She called one afternoon, frazzled as usual. The twins want to put on a Christmas pageant. Can you help with costumes? Something quick, angels, shepherds, maybe a donkey? You're good at that stuff. I stared at the email confirmation of my resort booking, glowing on my laptop screen. I'll see what I can do, I told her smoothly. My schedule's tight this week. She barely heard me. Great, thanks, sis. I knew you'd come through. Then she hung up, already counting on me. Next came Thomas. Hey, could you pick up a couple of last-minute gifts? You're the expert at finding things. Sophie's into unicorns. Emma's obsessed with puzzles, Lucas. Honestly, just anything that keeps him quiet. Again, I said the same words, I'll see what I can do. He sighed in relief. Knew I could count on you. Then Mom leaving a voicemail while I was in a meeting. Karen, dear, I thought you could swing by Christmas Eve morning. We'll need to rearrange the furniture so there's enough space for the kids' table. Oh, and the neighbors dropping off their dog. You don't mind walking him before dinner, do you? You always did so well with pets. I let the message play twice before deleting it. Each request slid into place like pieces of a puzzle I no longer belonged to. I responded with silence, vague promises, or cheerful diversions. And each time a quiet thrill pulsed through me. They had no idea. Jason noticed the shift first. We sat on my couch one evening, Chinese takeout cartons spread between us. He leaned back, chopsticks dangling loosely in his hand, studying me. You're calmer, he said. Calmer, I raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Usually by now you're running around like a general before battle. List reminders, 3 phones ringing at once. But you're smiling. Like you've got a secret. I smiled into my lo mein. Maybe I do. Jason's eyes softened. They still don't know, do they? I shook my head. And when they realize, I exhaled slowly, imagining it: Mom's frantic voice, Abigail's disbelief, Thomas's nervous chuckle, the empty chair, the catered dinner arriving without me. That's the point, I whispered. Jason reached across the couch and squeezed my hand. Good. Let them see what life looks like without you holding it together. Still doubt crept in at odd moments. At a casual dinner a few nights before Christmas, I sat at Mom's table, surrounded by the familiar chaos, Abigail half scolding, half ignoring her twins as they fought over a toy, Thomas balancing Lucas on his lap while trying to finish his pizza, Mom watching me with expectation in her eyes, waiting for me to jump in. And I did, out of reflex, cutting food into smaller bites, distracting a fussy child, clearing plates. It was muscle memory, a role so ingrained I almost forgot my plan. But then I caught Jason's gaze across the table. He wasn't smiling. He was watching me with quiet intensity, as though reminding me, without words, you don't have to keep doing this. Later in the car, he finally spoke. They'll never stop seeing you this way, Karen. Not unless you stop playing the part. I know, I said softly, gripping the steering wheel. My knuckles whitened. And I will. In a few days, I will. The truth was that dinner only made me more determined. They hadn't asked a single thing about my life. Not about Jason, not about my work, not about what I wanted. Every conversation circled back to logistics, responsibilities, what I could do for them. It was a script we'd all memorized, and I was finally ready to drop my lines. On December 22nd, I drove to Dukas to finalize the catering. Anthony met me in his office holiday music, floating faintly from the kitchen beyond the glass. So he said, scanning his tablet, adult dinner beef, Wellington roasted vegetables, truffle mashed potatoes, chocolate hazelnut tort, wine pairings, kids' meal tenders, mac and cheese, broccoli cookies, everything labeled, instructions included, delivery at 4 sharp. Perfect, I said. He peered at me curiously. You sure you don't want to be there? That's unusual for you. Not this year, I replied, a small smile tugging at my lips. This year, they'll figure it out themselves. Anthony chuckled, shaking his head. Well, it'll be flawless. They'll never know you weren't behind it. They'll know, I said quietly. That's the whole point. Back home, I wrapped the last of the gifts and labeled each one with handwritten cards. I arranged for a courier to deliver them Christmas morning. Despite everything, I couldn't leave the kids without presents. But I made sure each note carried a message, not scolding, not bitter, but firm. I love you. But I need my time to matter too. On December 23rd, I started packing for the resort. Swimsuits, sundresses, sandals. The absurdity of folding beach clothes while frost clung to my window made me laugh out loud. The laughter felt strange, almost foreign. It had been so long since I'd laughed without exhaustion chasing it. By Christmas Eve, everything was in place, the catering arranged, the gifts organized, the heirlooms reclaimed, the flights booked. My phone buzzed constantly with family messages, last-minute details, assumptions, endless tiny demands. I answered none of them. Instead, I poured a glass of wine, sat by my tree, and whispered to the twinkling lights, tomorrow everything changes. For the first time in my adult life, Christmas would belong to me. Christmas Eve dawned cold and bright, the kind of morning where the frost glittered like glass across every lawn. As the car service pulled up outside my apartment, I wheeled my suitcase out the wheels, crunching softly against the frozen pavement. Jason met me at the curb, his breath visible in the chill, his smile warm. Ready, he asked, taking the handle of my bag. More ready than I'd ever been. The ride to the airport passed in a blur of holiday decorations flashing past the windows, plastic Santas on porches, twinkling lights framing rooftops, inflatable snowmen bobbing in the wind. It all felt surreal, like a life I was slipping out of. My phone tucked into my purse vibrated incessantly. Texts, missed calls, voicemails piling up. Mom, Abigail, Thomas, one after another. I ignored them. But when we reached the terminal and Jason was checking us in at the kiosk, I couldn't resist anymore. I pulled the phone out. 30 missed calls, 7 voicemails. The latest text from Mom read, "Where are you?" "The children are waiting for your cinnamon rolls." The cinnamon rolls, the ones I had never agreed to make. Jason glanced at the screen and gave a low whistle. "They still think you're coming." "Of course they do," I said bitterly. "They always do." We made it through security with time to spare. In the crowded terminal, families bustled around us, parents herding excited kids toward gates, couples juggling coffee cups and carry-ons. Jason and I found seats near a decorated artificial tree in the waiting area. I turned my phone back on, and within seconds it rang again. "Mom." Jason raised his eyebrows. "You going to answer?" I hesitated, heart pounding. Then I nodded. "It's time." I slid my finger across the screen. "Hello. Karen Elizabeth." My mother's voice snapped through the line, taut with frustration. "Where are you?" "We've been waiting for hours. The children are asking for breakfast. Abigail needs you to go over the schedule. Why aren't you here?" I took a steadying breath, forcing my voice calm. "I'm not coming, Mom." There was a silence, brief but heavy. Then, disbelieving, "Don't be ridiculous. Of course you're coming. It's Christmas." "No," I said firmly, my hand tightening on the phone. "Not this year. Not tomorrow. Not at all." Her voice rose sharp with panic. "What are you talking about? You can't just decide not to show up. We're counting on you." "I know," I said, letting the words sink in. "That's the problem. You've always counted on me, without ever asking." I heard rustling as if she'd moved into another room. "Karen, you're being dramatic. We were only talking about logistics. You misunderstood." "I heard everything, Mom. Every word. You and Abigail and Thomas deciding I'd watch the kids during your adult-only dinner, laughing about me being single, dismissing Jason like he didn't exist." Her voice faltered. "That's not what we meant." "It's exactly what you meant," I cut in sharper than I intended. Heads turned in the terminal, but I didn't care. "You've treated me like free labor for years. I love this family, but you've mistaken my love for endless availability. My time, my work, my presence. You've all treated it like it belongs to you by default. A beat of silence, then a tremor in her voice. Where are you right now? At the airport. The airport. Her voice cracked, climbing higher. What flight? Where are you going? I glanced at Jason, who was watching me steadily, his hand warm over mine. The boarding announcement echoed overhead, calling our group. I'm going on vacation, I said clearly. With Jason. We're leaving now. The silence on the other end stretched heavy as lead. Then her voice broke desperate. Karen, you can't do this. What about Christmas dinner? What about the children's gifts? What about... The dinner will be delivered at 4 o'clock tomorrow, I interrupted. Catered. Paid for in full. Adult menu, kids menu instructions labeled. The gifts are wrapped and in the guest room closet. Everything you need is there, except me. Her gasp crackled through the line. Catering. That's not the same. You always cook, you always make it special. And that's the point, I said softly. You never noticed how much I gave until I stopped. This year, you'll have to notice. Around us, the line at the gate began to move. Jason squeezed my hand again. Karen, please, Mom whispered. Now the fight draining from her tone replaced with something rawer. I don't know how to do this without you. For a moment, guilt clawed at me. But then the clarity returned. That's what you need to figure out. Because I can't keep doing it all. Not anymore. The gate agent scanned Jason's boarding pass, then mine. I lifted my carry-on voice steady as I gave my final words. Merry Christmas, Mom. I'll see you in the new year. Before she could answer, I ended the call and slid the phone into airplane mode. Jason and I walked down the jet bridge together, the hum of the plane engines vibrating underfoot. As we stepped onto the aircraft, I felt the weight of years lifting off me. For once, Christmas wasn't about sacrifice or obligation, it was about choice. And this time I chose me. Christmas morning broke, not with the shrieks of children or the clang of pots in my mother's kitchen, but with sunlight streaming through gauzy curtains and the distant crash of waves against the shore. I padded onto the balcony barefoot, a steaming cup of coffee in my hand, and breathed in salt air instead of the heavy scent of cinnamon rolls I would normally be baking. Below, palm trees swayed lazily, their trunks wrapped in strands of twinkling lights. Guests in bright swimsuits strolled along the beach, a far cry from the frantic scramble I could only imagine happening in my mother's living room. Jason slipped behind me, his arms circling my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "Merry Christmas," he murmured. I smiled, leaning back into him. Merry Christmas. And for the first time in my adult life, I meant it. We exchanged small gifts over room service breakfast. Nothing elaborate, just tokens that spoke of thought rather than duty. He gave me a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny charm shaped like a camera, a nod to how we'd met. I gave him a leather-bound journal embossed with his initials. His eyes softened as he traced the letters with his thumb. Perfect, he said simply. And unlike with my family, I knew he meant it. At noon, lounging by the pool with drinks in hand, I finally caved and checked my phone. The flood of notifications nearly made me laugh. 28 missed calls, 43 texts, 11 voicemails. The messages told the story of my absence in real time. The first from Mom at 7:12 a.m. The kids are asking for your cinnamon rolls. Where are you? Then Abigail twins are fighting over stockings. I can't calm them down. This is a disaster. You could have at least told us you weren't coming. Thomas surprisingly at 9:30. We messed up, didn't we? I'm sorry, Karen. The kids miss you. But I told them Aunt Karen needed a vacation too. Merry Christmas. As the hours went on, the tone shifted. Abigail again at 10:15. I can't do this without you. You always handled the chaos. I don't know how. Mom at 11:05. Her voicemail. Voice raw with tears. I don't know how to do this without you, Karen. I found your binder with all the instructions. I never realized how much you do. At 4:37 p.m., another text from Mom. The catering just arrived. Everything is labeled perfectly. The note you left, it made me cry. I'm so sorry, Karen. I closed my eyes, exhaling. They were finally beginning to see. Meanwhile, Jason and I dressed for dinner at the resort's oceanfront restaurant. The tables were set with flickering lanterns, the sound of the tide our background music. We clinked glasses of champagne while the sun sank into the horizon, painting the sky gold and violet. This, Jason said, gesturing toward the view, is what Christmas should feel like for you. I nodded, feeling the knot in my chest loosen. Peaceful. Back at home, peace was the last thing they had. Abigail's message at 6:02. The twins melted down again. James threw broccoli at the wall. I finally understand why you always kept them distracted. I'm exhausted. At 7:15, Thomas sent a short video of all 5 kids singing a halting but earnest Christmas carol, their voices overlapping off-key but sweet. His caption read, "They wanted to sing this for you. Merry Christmas, Karen." And at 8:44, Mom's final message of the night. The food was wonderful, but it wasn't the same without you. There's an empty chair at the table. We all felt it. I set the phone down and looked out at the ocean, the moon casting silver across the water. The empty chair. The phrase lingered in my mind, heavy but satisfying. For years I had filled that chair without question. Tonight my absence had become louder than my presence ever was. Jason reached across the table, his hand warm over mine. You don't regret it, do you? I thought of Mom's tears, Abigail's frustration, Thomas's unexpected apology, of the chaos I'd left behind, the silence I'd created. No, I said softly. For once I don't regret a thing. 3 weeks after Christmas, I unlocked the door to my condo and wheeled my suitcase inside. The Caribbean sun still lingered on my skin, but the winter chill of home wrapped around me quickly, like the family tension I knew was waiting. The vacation had been more than an escape. It had been restorative. Jason and I spent mornings snorkeling in turquoise water afternoons, wandering coastal villages nights, sharing dinners at tucked-away restaurants where no one knew us. For the first time in years, I had experienced life unburdened by obligation. But vacations end, and family waits. The first test came at my nephew Lucas's birthday party. Thomas and Penny were hosting the driveway, crowded with SUVs, balloons, straining against the cold wind. My chest tightened as I carried a modestly wrapped gift up the front steps. No extra decorations, no elaborate cake, no binder of color-coded plans. Just a gift. That alone felt revolutionary. Inside, the noise hit me instantly. Children, squealing adults, chatting, the smell of pizza, mingling with frosting. My mother spotted me first. She hugged me too tightly, whispering into my ear, "We need to talk." Abigail's greeting was cooler, a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. Only Thomas seemed genuinely relaxed, his grin wide as he clapped me on the shoulder. "Good to have you back, sis." The children were easier. They swarmed me with shrieks of Aunt Karen, tugging my hands, showing me toys, asking about my trip. I noticed something different when one of them grew fussy. Their parent actually stepped in, not me. That small change gave me courage. Later, while I was refilling my glass in the kitchen, Mom cornered me. Her voice was low, careful not to be overheard. "What you did at Christmas was very hurtful, Karen. We were counting on you." I met her gaze steadily. "That's the problem, Mom. You were counting on me without asking. You made plans for my time as if it already belonged to you." Her brow furrowed, lips parting, as though to protest. Then she closed her mouth. After a long pause, she whispered, "We're family. Family helps each other." "Yes," I said softly, "but it should go both ways. When was the last time anyone asked what I wanted for the holidays, or if I even had the bandwidth to do it all?" Her eyes flickered, her shoulders sagged just slightly. "I can't remember." Her voice cracked. "After your father died, I leaned on you. Too much. It was easier to let you handle everything than to figure it out myself. I'm sorry, Karen. I didn't see how much I was asking." The apology stunned me more than her earlier anger. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away. "Thank you for saying that, Mom. I needed to hear it. Here." Later on the back porch, Abigail approached me. She was cradling a glass of wine, her expression unusually serious. "That was quite the stunt you pulled," she said lightly, but there was no humor in her tone. "It wasn't a stunt," I replied. "It was a boundary." She sipped her wine eyes on the children through the window. "The twins asked where you were every day." I didn't have a good answer. "What did you tell them?" I asked cautiously. "That sometimes adults need vacations too," she admitted, "and that maybe we hadn't been fair to you." I stared at her surprised. "You said that." She nodded. "Look, I was angry at first. Furious, actually. It felt like you abandoned us. But then, I had to handle Christmas morning meltdowns myself. The tantrums, the mess, the noise. And I realized you always absorbed all of that. Every year. I've been handing off the hard parts of parenting to you. That wasn't fair." Her words hit me like a soft hammer, both painful and relieving. For the first time, Abigail was seeing me. "Thank you," I whispered. She turned to me, her eyes searching. So, this Jason, is he serious? The shift in topic startled me, but it was a relief too. For once, my personal life mattered in the conversation. Yes, he's serious. He makes me happy. Good, Abigail said quietly. You deserve that. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was something, a crack in the old pattern. Thomas, unsurprisingly, was the most supportive. During dinner, when Mom began hinting about spring cleaning her garage, Thomas stepped in. Maybe we can all set aside a Saturday. Share the load. If Karen's available, she can join. But it shouldn't all fall on her. The room fell silent for a moment. Then slowly Mom nodded. Abigail, too. It was small, but it was change. That night driving home, Jason squeezed my hand. Well, he asked. I exhaled. It's not perfect, but it's a start. The truth was, I didn't expect miracles. Years of patterns wouldn't vanish overnight, but the conversations, raw, uncomfortable, honest, were happening. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't invisible at my own family's table. The empty chair I left on Christmas had left a mark, and maybe, just maybe, that mark would grow into something better. 1 year later, December arrived with its usual flurry of wreaths, lights, and frantic shoppers. But for me, the month carried something new, calm. Christmas was no longer mine alone to orchestrate. In early November, my mother had called a family meeting. Not me, her. We all gathered in her living room. Tension thick at first, but what unfolded stunned me. This year, Mom began, we're dividing responsibilities. Abigail blinked. Wait, you mean not Karen doing everything? Mom met my eyes before answering. Exactly. It's not fair to her, and it's not fair to the rest of us to keep leaning on one person. We're all adults. We share the load. I sat frozen, hardly believing it. The plan that followed felt surreal. Abigail volunteered to handle the gift exchange, organizing names and limits. Thomas offered to coordinate the kids' activities from gingerbread houses to scavenger hunts. Mom promised to host, but not micromanage. My role, I would oversee the meal with contributions from everyone. For the first time in years, I wasn't a one-woman production team. I was simply part of the family. As Christmas approached, I watched the transformation unfold. Abigail texted photos of the twins, helping her wrap gifts tape stuck to their noses. Thomas emailed activity schedules with more enthusiasm than skill, but it was effort. Even Mom signed up for a baking class at the community center, proudly showing off sugar cookies she decorated herself. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Jason noticed the difference too. One evening, as we sat on my couch, stringing lights, he squeezed my hand. They're learning, he said. Slowly, I replied, smiling. But they are. When Christmas Eve finally arrived, the house felt different. Livelier, lighter. I carried in my casserole dish, not mountains of supplies. The children ran to greet me squealing as always, but no one shoved a fussy toddler into my arms. Instead, Thomas and Penny shepherded their kids, smiling sheepishly at me over the chaos. Abigail looked up from arranging the gift table. Hey, sis. Looks good, right? I color-coded the name tags. I laughed. I see that. Nice work. Jason followed me inside carrying a bottle of wine. This time he wasn't invisible. My mother greeted him warmly, hugging him, as though making up for years of dismissal. Jason, I'm so glad you're here. It means a lot to Karen and to me. His surprise flickered across his face, but he masked it with a polite smile. Later he whispered in my ear, She's trying. And she was. That night, after the children had gone to bed and the adults gathered quietly by the tree, Mom raised her glass. The twinkling lights reflected in her eyes as she looked at me. To Karen, she said softly, Who taught us that loving someone means respecting their boundaries, not just accepting their sacrifices? Thank you for showing us a better way to be family. The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Abigail nodded slowly. Thomas gave me a small, proud smile. My throat tightened. For years I had begged silently for acknowledgement. Tonight it came freely. Jason slipped his arm around me, and I leaned into him. The empty chair I had left last Christmas had been painful, but it had forced this moment into existence. Sometimes absence speaks louder than presence. Later, as laughter filled the room and the wine flowed, I looked around at my family. They were imperfect, still prone to bickering and blind spots, but something fundamental had shifted. This Christmas wasn't about me carrying everyone. It was about all of us carrying each other. And for the first time, I felt not like the scaffolding holding up the facade, but like a daughter, a sister, an equal. The chair was no longer empty, it was mine again.